Welcome to the Planet MicroCap Showcase Virtual 2022. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and thank you all for joining us. Now presenting at our event is Jamie McIntosh. He is the president and CEO of Graycliff Exploration Limited. It's a publicly traded company. I got two symbols for you, GRAY on the CSE and GRYCF on the OTCQB. Jamie, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Bobby. We're lucky to get that symbol for the OTCQB all of them have F, and we just figure it's pretty nice. It's Graycliff Exploration, so it's a good start for us. We have our forward-looking statements for everyone who needs to see them. So Graycliff is a really simple story. If you break it down, we have a brownfields gold project that was originally mined at the turn of the century. And we have a greenfields project, which is about 1,500 hectares adjacent to the Shakespeare project. We have an all-star technical team. They've been credited with a number of major Ontario mining discoveries. And we have a very tight capital structure, and about 25% is owned by insiders and strategic investors. So it's a really simple story. And of course, as everyone's heard, it's all these junior exploration companies are undervalued right now. So we're 88 kilometers west of Sudbury. 80 kilometers that is on the Trans-Canada Highway, and about 5 kilometers of that is on a paved road. So we have excellent infrastructure. We've got power, water, full access. We can drive the pickup trucks right up to the drill sites on the Shakespeare project. We have a number of very good leases and claims covering about 1,025 hectares. As I said before, it was mined for 4 years at the turn of the century. They took out about 3,000 ounces by hand from 6 underground areas. Since we took the company public in August of 2020, we've drilled about 12,000 meters of core, and we've created a very significant mineralized zone that is open in all directions. So when you look at our property, and you can see my hand here, there is a mineralized trend that goes from the southwest to the northeast. Along this mineralized trend, we've done a lot of field sampling. In addition to gold in the area of the old Miller shaft, we also have copper, nickel. We have some cobalt and silver up in this area. When we did the field sampling right here, this pit had field samples of over 3% copper. So the northeast part of the property along the 6-kilometer trend has some very significant mineralization as well as spectacular gold. It's a series of quartz veins and quartz stockworks of veins, and many of them do have sulfides associated with them, but the gold is not necessarily in the sulfides, which is excellent news when it comes to mining it. And there's obviously there's other potentials for further gold discoveries along this 6-kilometer trend. We're focusing currently in this area around the old shaft. So when I said it was significant, they found a quartz vein at surface that ran 250 ounces per ton, and they sank the shaft by hand as soon as they got the permit to sink a shaft. They used picks and shovels, and they recovered about 3,000 ounces when gold was $19 an ounce. I figure they probably then retired and lived very comfortably after that, the 8 men. There was very limited historical exploration along this area. We are the first ones to put together 1,000 hectares. There was a lot of small little claims, but no one really put the whole piece of ground together until we did in 2019. We've added to the property since then. We now have a total of 25 hectares in the area. We're looking at potentially opening up the number 3 adit, and I'll show you that in a minute from the old underground workings. And recently, we just completed airborne geophysics and the interpretation thereof. And we not only found and identified some new gold exploration targets, but we also identified some significant copper, nickel copper, and even potentially platinum group targets in the area. This picture is actually a high grade section from the phase 2 drilling that came back with very significant numbers. I think it was 46 grams of gold per ton. In phase 1 to 3, you can see we've carried out a lot of drilling, almost 8,000 meters in the first 3 phases. And you can see we created basically this whole blue zone is all mineralization. The average grades are hard to tell, but certainly there is some very significant grades. It could be as much as an average grade of close to 7 or 8 grams per ton. In hole 7, you can see we had almost 6 meters of 8.6 grams at a depth of 68 meters. So that was up in here, this area. And hole 8 was 16 meters of 16 grams at a depth of 89 meters with some, fairly significant sections in there. Hole 9, we had 16 meters of 13 grams at a depth of 104 meters. And we keep going down. As we keep going down in depth, 4.2 meters of 19 grams, 3 meters of 46 grams, and then right below it, 23 meters below, we had 4.8 meters of 46 grams. So these are very, very significant intersections, and they give us a lot of comfort. The zone is open at depth. It's open along strike. When you look at the northeast southwest trend along strike, it is open there as well. The 5 meters of 6 grams at 105 meters in hole 36 was followed up by more numbers in phase 4. Phase 4, we've had the presence of free gold from near surface to now over 250 meters of depth, and it continues to be open. You can see these 2 holes were slight step outs along strike, and we continue to get the good numbers. 6 meters of 10 grams at 195, 3 meters of 14 grams at 178 meters of depth, 5 meters of 5 grams at 185. And in 53, there was not just that one intersection. There was 3 anomalous intervals over a span of 24 meters from 173 to 197. So we're getting very consistent, good grades all the way down. I mentioned I'd talk about the number 3. This is the number 3 added here. It goes right out to the side of the hill. You can see the side of the cliff right here along this topo map. So the old shaft, this part is almost 250, 300 feet above the road that is right down here. So you're basically all of this ore is above ground. So it's extremely positive, and it certainly gives us great hope for the future. We also did some channel sampling at surface. We had 137 grams over 0.7 meters, 54 grams over a half a meter, and 15 grams over half a meter. These are surface channel samples, as you can see here. And we did them for a couple of reasons. One was to prove that the mineralization goes from surface all the way down to over 250 meters. And the other was, if we could identify these channel samples in this highly sericitized quartz stockworks, then we should be able to locate other outcrops on the property. And that's part of what we'll be doing next summer, is clearing off some outcrops and looking for other areas to drill along strike of the 6K we have. This is the geophysical results interpretation. We not only flew the full 6K trend of Shakespeare, but we also flew Baldwin. As you can see, it is literally adjacent to Shakespeare. We did about 488 line kilometers at about 100 meter spacing. We defined the presence of a number of very significant copper, gold, copper, nickel, PGE targets, especially up in here, this area. We think these are potentially base metal targets or battery metals. So that's obviously very interesting with the current desire for battery metals. But we also delineated what appears to be a fairly significant regional deformation zone. And that was right in line here with where we're drilling and where we're getting the fairly significant mineralized zone. So there's ground geologic work that has to be done in follow-up, as well as some ground geophysics, and then we'll be able to get the drills on some of these targets in 2023. That's me actually looking at the sample that we took earlier with the 46 grams. Phase 4, there's 16 holes drilled, about 4,500 meters. And we're basically done for the winter, but we will be taking it up again in 2023. So there's a lot more to do on this property. We're also beginning collection of material for preliminary metallurgical test work, which will be carried out. Well, we should have the test results in early 2023. Baldwin, it's complete greenfield site. The only work ever done on Baldwin was done after the Second World War, when there was a uranium boom, the first uranium boom. And the gentlemen that were looking for it went up. They did a lot of drilling. They laid the core on surface. They ran a Geiger counter over it. If it didn't carry, they didn't even send the core in for assay, and they only assayed for uranium. When we were looking at their assessment reports, the geologic logs talked about this bluey gray sericitized quartz. It looks exactly like what we're pulling down here at Shakespeare. So we're pretty encouraged. There was none of the core on surface. Obviously, prospectors or others over the years have removed it. But our initial due diligence suggests that both projects share similar geology. And we believe that when we're able to get the drills on to Baldwin, we'll find more gold. And with that, we could have the makings of a new Ontario gold camp. We're in an interesting area because we're on the edge of the Sudbury Basin, which is, a huge source of nickel for the world. But there is gold associated with nickel in a lot of these deposits. And we appear to have a lot more gold and a lot less nickel. Certainly in the area that we're currently drilling, but it's very encouraging. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I was a mining analyst back in the mid-'80s. Went on, did corporate finance, did corporate development for a number of private and public resource companies. We took developed 2 or 3 mines, some of them in Central America, one in South America, and went on. I was the lead director of Carlisle when we sold it to Alamos, and that's a very significant deposit in Manitoba. My CFO I've known for over 20 years, and our executive chair, our non-executive chair, is an excellent mining investor from Perth. So great board, great strength. Our technical advisors are Bruce Durham and Don McKinnon. Bruce Durham is credited with having been the co-discoverer of 2 of the 3 Hemlo mines. The 3 mines collectively have generated over 26 million ounces of gold since they went into production. And he's also discovered the Redstone nickel mine and the Bell Creek gold mine in Timmins. So Bruce is an excellent resource for not just gold, but also for base metals. And of course, nickel is now a battery metal, not just a base metal. So it's very positive. I'm in contact with these gentlemen every day. Don McKinnon has an incredible Rolodex. He's one of the reasons why our drillers are shareholders. He's a shareholder. Bruce is a shareholder. Most of the people working on this project are shareholders. So we're aligned with everyone else, and we make our money by making the shares grow. We have a very simple structure, 33 million shares, very little dilution. 25% is owned by management and some strategic owners, including the drillers, and the geophysical team is actually a shareholder as well. That's our story. It's very straightforward. So Graycliff has the Shakespeare Gold Project, which is a brownfield site with a ore zone currently that is 150 meters by 150 meters by 250 meters deep, and it's open in all directions. We're about to start doing some interesting work on the sort of, I would call, pre-development, or project development status. We have Baldwin, which is a wide open greenfield site that has some excellent geophysical anomalies and some good field sampling that's been done. We have an all-star technical team that can make this, turn this into a mine, and we have a tight capital structure. So we have all the right hallmarks for making Graycliff very valuable. Thank you, Bobby.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. All right. So a few questions for you here. First question is, your Shakespeare property hosts a past producing gold mine. Would you say your priority right now is to test the area surrounding the mine, or are you looking at targets further away on the property too?
So that's an excellent question. As I said, we acquired the property in 2019. We went public in 2020. We've been primarily testing around the historical Miller shaft. It's proven obviously to be very successful. You just don't get 16 meters of 16 grams very often. But we do have a very significant land package with that southwest to northeast trending horizon with 6 kilometers and some really good recent geophysical targets elsewhere on the property. We will definitely want to test some of those, discover some new areas of mineralization. We believe one of the very large geophysical anomalies at the north end of the property may well be copper or nickel. And obviously, you know, because of the way the property's set up, you can break it into different sections. So we could actually have a base metal portion of the property at the top and gold at the bottom. And we may have gold associated with those base metals as well.
Absolutely. All right. So my next question for you here is, it looks like, or it sounds like that you haven't done much work yet on Baldwin. So are you planning to in 2023, or would you prefer to stick to the Shakespeare project for the time being?
So that's a good question. I get asked that one fairly regularly. We initiated some field sampling and carried out the geophysics on Baldwin. And we definitely identified some gold targets and some very new, you know, copper, gold, and maybe even nickel targets. So we definitely want to do some more work on Baldwin in 2023, targeting some of those areas, especially the areas that have geologic similarity to Shakespeare, because, you know, we'd love to find at least 2 or 3 deposits on the property. But with the world's focus on battery metals, finding a big copper or nickel deposit would be really good for shareholders. So yeah, I mean, we're sort of torn. We may do both.
Gotcha. You know, another question that I have for you, you know, looking at, you know, and I'm asking this to all the companies that are here at the conference. You know, we're going through tough markets right now, even though we're on the day of recording this on December 1st. Gold is up.
It's a little better.
Yeah, a little settle over $1,800. But you know, there are still some macroeconomic pressures that have been affecting most microcaps. So, you know, what have been some of the measures that the company is doing to mitigate some of these risks?
Well, so because most of our contractors are also shareholders, they're very understanding. You know, you pare back a little bit. You try to be a little bit more thrifty with your assaying. You try to also make sure that the drill's not sitting idle, or if it is, the guys are on vacation. So you really have to be very conscious. We have a very low burn rate. And we have the ability, if we need to suspend our own pay to preserve the hard dollars, because as you know, in a market like this, hard dollars are extremely precious.
Without question. So then to close this out here, you know, in your opinion, and from what you can tell us, what would you say are some of the company's biggest catalysts driving the company's fundamentals in the near term?
So we did about 4,500 meters at Shakespeare this year. We've released the assays from the first 8 holes. And we had some, you know, as I mentioned earlier, some very good high grade intervals. There are 8 holes that are currently at the assay lab. And as we announced in one of our press releases, we did see visible gold, or VG, as we like to say in the business, in the core. And we have very high hopes for some of those last 8 holes. The other thing, I guess the next one would be, we're currently drilling a number of metallurgical testing holes. These are HQ core, so it's quite large. It's not like the smaller core, it's quite significant. And that allows you to quarter it and a quarter gets retained so that you can use it in a resource calculation. A quarter goes to the assay lab, and then you take the other half and you actually send it to a metallurgical testing facility and they test the recoveries. So what method would you have to use to recover the ore? We believe that we have a significant portion of the gold is actually free gold, so it's not tied up in any sulfides or anything, which means you can recover it with the gravity methods, which is extremely far cheaper, and obviously would lead to a better recovery numbers. And then the other thing we're looking at is we're anticipating generating a maiden resource in 2023, and that obviously would be a very significant catalyst for shareholder growth.
Well, Jamie, with that, thank you so much for your presentation today, answering a few of my questions. And for everybody listening in and watching, thank you also for participating, and enjoy the rest of your event. Jamie, thank you.